Good evening. My name's Bob Connors. It's 7:01 p.m. I'd like to call the February 21st meeting of the Newbury Conservation Commission to order. Sam, can you read the remote open meeting law preamble and take a roll call of the members present?
Yes. All right. As a preliminary matter, my name is Samantha Holt, Town Staff Conservation Agent for the Newbury Conservation Commission. Permit me to confirm that all members are present and can hear me. Conservation Commission members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Bob Connors.
Yes.
Brad Duffin.
Present.
Diane O'Brien.
Yes.
Mary Rimmer.
Yes.
We do not have Pete yet. And TJ Conti.
Yes.
All right, good evening. This February 21st, 2023 open meeting of the Newbury Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely consistent with the act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, which extends the governor's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law until March 31st, 2023. This order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location and allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that attendees are participating by video and/or telephone conference, and the recording will be available on the Newbury Access YouTube channel. Meeting materials were provided to commission members prior to the meeting for review and were posted on the Conservation Commission web page for public access. Before we turn to the first item on the agenda, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. Proponents will be given 10 minutes to present. More time may be allowed at the discretion of the chair. After they conclude their remarks, we will go down the list of commission members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. For all attendees except commission members and staff, please remember to mute your computer using the mute button or your phone using *6 to toggle mute and unmute when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. Please be aware that video participants can see you and that you should take care not to screen share your computer unless you've been allowed to do so. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. For any responses, please wait until the floor is yielded for you and state your name before speaking. If commission members wish to engage in discussion with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself when you wish to speak. There will be an opportunity for public comment and questions during public hearings. After commission members have spoken, we will afford the public an opportunity to comment and/or ask questions as follows. I will see questions and comments at the appropriate time through the Zoom raise hand function. For video conference participants, to raise your hand, hover over the bottom of the Zoom window below the photo gallery and click on the yellow hand that appears. If you don't see a yellow hand, click on the participants button. The list of participants will open and display on the right. At the bottom of this participant area, you will see an option to click on a raised hand button. Please ensure your name is fully and correctly displayed on the participant list. You may rename yourself by using the more function next to your name. For telephone participants, to raise your hand in a Zoom meeting, hit *9 on your phone's keypad. We will then allow questions and comments from members of the public who have raised their hands in the order in which they appear listed on my screen based on when the function was selected. Each participant will be called upon to provide his or her name and address or affiliation and will be provided 3 minutes to make comments. More time may be allowed at the discretion of the chair. The proponent or commission members will have the opportunity to reply as needed. Your hand will be lowered when you have been given the floor for your questions. We will then continue down the list of those in the raise hand column and again afford time for responses as needed. All participants are reminded that only matters which fall into the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission may be discussed. The chat feature has been disabled for this meeting. Everyone is expected to conduct themselves in the same manner they would at an in-person meeting. Any disruptions will be addressed once by the chair and should be acknowledged by the disruptor. Any further disruptions will result in complete removal from the meeting with no readmittance. Vulgar or obscene actions or comments will result in immediate removal from the meeting with no readmittance. And finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote.
Okay, thank you, Sam. All right, team, upcoming meeting dates. We have March 7th and March 21st. A reminder, returning to in-person meetings beginning April 1, unless our legislature comes through with an extension on the COVID policy. All right, first matter before the commission, meeting minutes. We have the meeting minutes of February 7th for approval. When we take a moment, look at those, see if there's any corrections, comments, or concerns.
Does anybody need me to pull them up?
They look fine to me, Sam. Yeah, you know what time? Put them up, Sam. We have time. We gotta kill some
Might as
time.
well, right?
Yeah.
Oops. All right.
Okay.
I think the only thing that I will say, and it has nothing to do with the minutes themselves, I had a technical issue last week. It was entirely my fault, and I do apologize. But I paused the recording because I opened the Zoom meeting about half an hour before the meeting actually started, and didn't want our poor IT guys to have to go through half an hour of waiting. And then I totally forgot to restart the recording. And I remembered about 5 minutes before the meeting ended that I never turned it back on. So we don't have a recording for this meeting. Luckily, I take really, really good notes.
Okay.
So
Yeah, well, you know what? It happens. All right, Tim, any questions or comments on the minutes for the February 7th meeting? Okay,
Nope.
hearing none, is there a motion to approve the February 7th meeting minutes?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Roll call vote. All in favor, say aye. Mary,
Yes.
TJ,
Aye.
Pete, Brad,
Abstain.
Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. All right, so the next matter we have before the commission is 19 Exeter Way, but we have it marked as 7:15.
I do have an
you have-
administrative report if we want to do that.
Yeah, sure. Why don't we skip ahead and do that then? That'd be great, Sam. Thank you.
So I did just want to let you guys know the MACC annual spring conference is happening. It's starting next week. It is going to be 7 whole entire days of virtual conference. I'm very excited about it. I am registered to attend the full conference online. One of the sessions is going to be on Saturday at 11 a.m. And it is a panel discussion for dam removal, culvert upgrades, and wetland restoration. And if any of you guys recall our discussion about the Larkin Dam removal, Chris Hirsch is our project partner from the Division of Ecological Restoration. The DER director is actually going to be mediating or facilitating that panel discussion. And Chris reached out to her to give her my name as a panelist, to invite as a panelist. So I'm going to be joining that panel discussion as a panelist to go over my work with the Larkin Dam removal, which is very exciting. So we
Good for
have
you,
some
Sam.
Congratulations.
big upcoming projects that are being worked on right now, town projects that are being recognized as examples of wetland restoration by the state. So
Good for you, Sam.
some very exciting news for everybody.
Congratulations, Sam. That'll be a great experience. And they're very lucky to have you on the panel, by the way.
Thank you. I'm very excited to go.
I want you to make sure that they follow all Robert's rules and procedures during your panel discussion.
I'm sure they will.
That's at 11 on Saturday?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, any other administrative matters, Sam?
Nothing that I have.
Okay.
I guess I can maybe ask the question since we have a few minutes. Would you guys like me to add, just to start getting the conversation going again before we get to July, about the meeting schedule discussion, we can maybe start bringing that back in and looking at it again.
Well, you know what? We've got 4 minutes to kill here. Well, you know what, Brad, what are your thoughts on that?
Well,
Not broke, don't fix it? Hint,
I,
hint.
I gotta say, I am enjoying the much shorter meetings, but I still think that we should try and figure out a way that we can meet less often, but also fulfill the obligation that we have for the permitting timeline. So, maybe it's not every 2 weeks, maybe it's every 3 weeks.
That was one of the potential schedules that I was looking at, was changing it to every 3
Yeah.
weeks. The only problem with that is that if we keep the meetings on Tuesday nights, especially when we start to go back to in-person meetings, we would have to
Right.
worry about conflicts with the select board. So if we're going to go to 3 weeks, I can certainly, plan it, and we would just adjust when we conflict with select board meetings, or we can change the day of the week that we meet
Day of the week,
all
right?
together. The last time I started going through that, I looked at some of the surrounding towns and some of the other boards that we would be most likely to conflict with, and it looked like Mondays were the better option for that. And I believe in the Dropbox there are some draft meeting agendas starting in July, or that start in July, for Monday meetings on the regular schedule, as well as Monday meetings on the 3-week rotation.
Okay, TJ, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think it really depends on if we do go back to live meetings versus the Zoom meetings.
Yeah,
These are certainly much more convenient and easy to attend and less invasive. If we do have to go back into it, I think the 3 weeks is better than the 2 weeks.
okay,
Monday versus Tuesday doesn't matter to me, but
okay. Diane, what are your thoughts?
And there was some talk at one point for Thursday. I didn't like that, but Monday.
Yeah, Thursdays would be kind of difficult because we would have to worry about conflicts with the zoning board, and there's other towns in the area that have meetings on Thursdays as well.
Yeah, Monday or Tuesday is fine with me.
Okay,
is
Mary,
there any indication what the governor's how they're gonna rule?
Nothing that I've heard yet. A lot of hopes and dreams, but nothing, no significant rumors.
Mary,
Okay.
what's your preference?
Mondays are good for me. I find with every 3 weeks that works. I would love it if they would allow a hybrid situation where if you
Right.
couldn't be there in person, that there was an option, because there are always issues with quorums with people having to actually be there physically. So those are my only thoughts. I think that we also want to maybe keep in mind, some dates for non-hearing meetings. If there is other business we want to discuss, open space issues and some of the other duties of the Conservation Commission that we don't get to
Right,
because we're
right.
just dealing with Wetland Protection Act hearings.
No, good point. All right, well, team, you know what? It's now 7:15, so I'm gonna go jump right back on the agenda. All right, we have requests for determination of applicability, 19 Exeter Way, for work to maintain the driveway and install a generator. Sam, where are we at on this? Could you give us a project overview and an update?
Yep, so at our last meeting, we discussed this one. So this is for the maintenance of the existing driveway at 19 Exeter, and the installation of propane tanks and a generator. the last time we talked about this, there were some concerns about the maintenance for the driveway in particular. The scope of the work, and what it was going to involve. I don't remember there being a lot of questions about the generator, but the applicant was kind enough to share a sketch that was done up for the installation of the generator for the platform, showing with sonotubes, and I do have Mr. Cassidy with me tonight for any questions. So we have the sketch that was provided for the generator, and I think Mary had some comments about the driveway maintenance as well.
Okay, Mary, let's open this up to questions. Mary, what are your questions and thoughts on this?
So one thing on this sketch, I noticed that there's, it's supported by sonotubes, which is not a support system that we have been permitting on the island. So diamond piers or helical piles, those are allowable. So I would say that this sketch would need to be modified, I think, to meet that requirement. And provided, there's not any clearing of vegetation needed to put in the generator itself. I think we've allowed this kind of thing frequently in the past, and I have no objection to that, provided the foundations are altered from what's shown here. I did have a chance to go by the site and I noticed that, well, one, this is, not technically their driveway that doesn't access the house. This is a secondary, dead end, spur. So it's not really technically a driveway. The material that's there now appears to have been placed based on a review of the historic aerials sometime in around between 2015 and 2018, roughly, as best as I could tell. The material itself consists of, construction debris, essentially. It's brick and asphalt chunks and gravel and concrete. It's not clean fill. And I presume it wasn't ever permitted to be put in there in the first place, because that material wouldn't have been allowed even in the time frame that I'm describing. So I'm having a hard time with allowing improvement and maintenance of an not illegal, but without authorization material put down over a dune. I think that the material should come out if there is a demonstrated need to have continued vehicle access through portion of this portion of the site, then more appropriate material could be put in. I don't think it needs to be put in all the way to this generator. There's a portion of the dune that, has taken over part of that, what we're calling the driveway. And you would have to alter the dune in order to continue, the driveway to all the way to the generator. And that is altering the dune. Now we're getting outside of a request for determination. We're into notice of intent territory instead, a different kind of filing with more information needed and grades. And so I think what I would say is if this project was just the generator itself, then I would not have an objection to it. Improving the existing access there is beyond what I think is allowable under an RDA, and we don't have enough detail on the width and depth and type of material that's proposed to be put in. And like I said, I think the material that's there should come out. So I have a number of concerns with the proposal as it's presented right now.
Okay, Mary. Mary, what I'll do is I'll go around and I'll circle back to you again for any follow-ups, okay?
Great.
TJ, any comments or thoughts on this one?
Just to kind of reiterate what Mary said, I don't think we got any more information as far as the material that the driveway was going to be composed of and how they were going to do it and the width of it and all of that. I don't have a problem with putting a generator in, obviously, but I just think we still need some more information before we can make any judgment on the driveway.
Okay, thank you, TJ. Brad, what are your thoughts?
No comment.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Diane, what are your thoughts?
No, agreed. I think last week we were pretty clear that we wanted more information about what grading was going to be done and what materials were going to be used, and none of that's in the Dropbox. The generator was new, but everything else was the same.
Okay. Yeah, Mary, you know, I went by the site myself and I kind of noticed I actually didn't notice, and I'm out of town now, that there was actually kind of more like a construction debris there, or is it what they call like that reprocessed brick that they grind up, or was it
It was,
actually?
it was a mix. So I
Okay.
actually took a photo of it. I could send it to you if you want, but
Okay,
it's a
yeah, no,
mix of
just-
material that looks like it was just, processed construction debris.
Okay, but it was processed, not just, it wasn't
Well,
just broken.
It
Wasn't,
was
wasn't,
broken up
broken.
into smaller chunks, but it wasn't uniform.
okay, so it wasn't like it was processed at a crusher or anything like that.
No, it didn't look like it. No.
Okay,
I also
Okay.
walked, I'm sorry, Bob.
Yeah.
I walked it. It looked like there was about 8 to 9 feet between the dune and the tree. Without touching the dune, if I'm not mistaken, but
Mm,
that was just another observation I made.
okay. Well, what's our pleasure, team? Sam, do you have any follow-up comments on this one?
I don't think so. I guess the only question really is, can we approve or can we issue a negative determination just for the generator and the propane tanks and just put a note on it that, any maintenance to that driveway would have to be done through a notice of intent?
Okay, but to follow up on Mary, the applicant would have to go change this drawing or SK to helical piles or those diamond piers.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. Mary, how does that sound to you?
That's fine. If it's taken out, the issue of the material placement is a separate issue. We can discuss that outside of this discussion on the RDA, but if the applicant is willing to remove that part of the project from this filing and amend the filing to show the correct footings, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Sam, is the applicant, is Morris on the line, and does he want to comment? Does he want to bifurcate this? And I think the result, if he doesn't, is he's probably going to have to file a notice of intent and it'll all be done at one time. I think what's being proposed is it gives him an opportunity to proceed with the generator install and then decide when and if he wants to come back in with a NOI on the addressing the driveway issues that have been raised tonight.
Most of the work that would be done there would not be done on the main entrance, and I'll call it from the road from Exeter. Most of it is right up near where the pump house is, because, to install a propane tank, a 500-gallon tank and a generator, it kind of has to be leveled out. I would leave that up to John and Hartnett. I mean, he knows what he's doing. The entryway, even though that drawing that I sent you shows a large area, it'd be very unlikely that any work would be done coming in there where that construction material was ground up. It would be mostly right in the area where the propane tank would be located and the generator, because that kind of has to be leveled out. So it's not going to impact the entire area that was circled in yellow on that overhead view that was submitted.
So Morris, are you okay with if the board entertains a vote on the RDA for just the generator with the agreement, you're gonna either use the helical or the diamond piers and the propane tanks.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
So would you be okay with the commission voting to issue a negative determination just for the installation of the propane tanks and the generator, with the condition that the generator platform is on either diamond pier or helical piles rather than the sonotubes?
What are those?
So the diamond piers is basically like a 1 foot by 1 foot concrete footing, just a small concrete footing with basically rebar that crosses underneath it to anchor it in the ground. And helical piles are just a metal piling, smaller than what you would put a house on, but just a metal piling that gets driven into the ground.
It's on the tube.
We typically, just because it's essentially constitutes fill because you're putting a big chunk of concrete in the ground. They're just typically not allowed on Plum Island.
Okay, well, when you say a helical pier, could that be just like a I-beam?
Yes, yeah, it could actually.
I mean,
A regular I-beam. So Morris, basically, DEP frowns upon putting any type of sonotubes in. And so the commission has followed along with that, so that you don't wind up getting a determination from us and then it gets appealed and you're dealing at the state level. Whether you want to drive like an I-beam that you would put on a house, or a helical pile, which is nothing more than a large corkscrew, to be honest with you. Or the diamond piers is, if you look them up, they're 12 by 12. They use 1.25 inch pipe that are just driven through holes in it diagonally at angles, and it gives you the frost protection that you need.
well, I don't have a problem with that, because on Plum Island, the frost generally doesn't go down more than 4 to 6
Right,
inches.
right. But I mean, certainly your contractor could. Yeah, whoever's installing your generator is going to tell you what you can do, what you need to be done. It just can't be sonotube. I guess that's the
Yeah,
easiest way
yeah.
that.
Steel tubes is fine. I would install it with my own men and my own equipment.
Okay,
It's not an issue. I've spoken to probably 3 different generator people. They don't really know what's going on Plum Island.
okay.
If I ask them, they'd probably tell me, I don't know, that's up to you.
Okay.
They're
All
used to installing generators in other locations. They're not used to the coastal zone management and any of that stuff like that.
All right. So Mary, I'm going to circle back with you. Are you okay with considering a negative determination based on the generator and propane tank? only?
Well, now I've got some more questions based on some of the responses. So the propane tank, how is that being supported?
Anchored.
Typically, they put down a concrete base. And that's what you see everywhere along the island and off the island, and they set the tank on
You're
that.
just doing a slab with the tank on top. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the 500 gallon. Is that the big long, wide ones?
That's an egg.
They have
Egg.
larger ones.
That's an
typically
egg.
the
Okay.
horizontal tanks that you see on Plum Island. It's very typical.
Okay. So, and we can't allow like regrading, flattening out of the area. I mean, we have to be mindful that this is a coastal dune and there are performance standards, and you can't alter the form of the dune or its, consistency, except in some limited circumstances. So, utilities are allowed to be constructed, but we can't create a big pad or change, regrade. You have to kind of work with what's there. So we're not anticipating like any equipment coming in to smooth things out or regrade. I think that it has to be on what's there now. This is a relatively flat area. I mean, you can, if you need to shim the slab or something, that's one thing, but I'm not sure what you fully understand. We can't leave it up to John Hartnett to decide what's best. We have to limit, this work in a way that meets the regulations. So if we can craft a determination that is specific enough so that can be, those limits can be established, I'm still okay with it. I just don't know fully if the applicant understands what we're talking about.
Well, to level the area under the generator is a small area. And the same with the propane tank, they could either, it's probably 6 to 8 inches, they have to dig down because it's on the side of a hill. Or you could bring in fill and just raise the grade so it's level in that
Well,
area.
Yeah, but you can put it, you can't put it on the side of the hill. That's what we're saying. So for the generator, the land can be uneven because you're gonna have it on piles and you can level it with your piles. Your slab, you just need to find a flat spot to put the slab and not put it on the side of the hill.
Well, that area is the bottom of the hill. It's not really sloped that
Right.
much.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
6 to
So
8 inches at the most.
Okay, Mary, anything else?
that's all I have for now.
Okay,
Brad has his hand up.
okay, Brad.
Mr. Chair, an option may be to, instead of installing an egg there, you extend the size of this raised platform, which is now going to be on diamond piers or helical coils, and you then place 3 150-gallon propane tanks on that, which essentially gives you the same amount of propane, which is commonly used out here. We see very few eggs here on the island, except ones that were grandfathered that have been here for years and years and years. And typically we get the 3 150s that gives you essentially the same amount of propane.
The only thing you run into is that you need 10 feet of separation between your
Correct.
propane tank
Yep,
and
correct.
and a spark,
Mhm.
source, which would be the generator.
So you could have two separate,
Pads.
you
You could
have
have two,
two separate stands essentially.
correct, two
Yeah,
separate
which is-
stands or one big long one that's long
Yeah.
enough to give you the 10 feet separation.
Diane, Brad, anything else before I move on to Diane?
No, that's it.
Okay, Diane, any
I
questions?
just had a question about the whole bifurcation of the RDA and the NOI, because if I recall from the last meeting, the issue was the big trucks that were gonna be needed to install the generator and such. That he was afraid they were gonna get stuck down there and they wanted to kind of grade it and make it accessible for the trucks. So how can you separate the two?
I think that's a good question. It would seem that you have options of putting in a generator and how it's transported, whether it comes in on tires or it comes in on track. These small Bobcats that have tracks with forks could certainly probably transport this, but I think the actual install outside of what we're talking about, I think we set the parameters of what we expect, how it's actually the type of equipment done. I know you bring up a good point, Diane. I really,
No, he was just saying that's why he needed to regrade
right.
and make it flatter, I guess, or
Mm.
add fill to it or whatever was gonna happen, so. Is it not necessary? Is that what he's saying now, that he can still install everything without regrading? Because if not, then you can't really approve, I don't think, the propane and the generator without allowing him to regrade or hold off on it all and do it all at the same time.
Okay. All right, Diane, I'll circle back to everyone. Mary? Further
Yeah,
comments?
just to Diane's point, it's pretty firm coming in off Exeter. The
Right.
material that's there is pretty firm, and I don't have any reason to think that you couldn't get whatever size piece of equipment you needed to install this in far enough to be able to, without getting stuck. You wouldn't maybe be able to get it all the way to where you're going to put the piles for the stand, But like, I agree with Bob, the smaller piece of equipment can carry in whatever needs to be.
No,
Right.
and that's fine. It's okay with me. I just remembered that that's what the applicant was saying.
Right.
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 Okay, so Morris, we're back to you. Do you want the commission to entertain giving you a negative determination? Hence, you could go forward with the generator and the propane tanks with the guidance that we've offered. And then if you decide to do the driveway, you're gonna have to come in using a different format.
You know, I'm not familiar with all these issues, so what does that mean? I have to, do more paperwork?
If you want to get your generator in and you want to get your propane tanks done soon, then we can give you a negative condition with guidance that we've talked about. But if you want to regrade, refill, whatever on your driveway, then what I'm hearing from the commission is you're gonna have to come back with a notice of intent, which is certainly it's a lot more formal, re-advertising, public hearing, and you're gonna need more detail.
So basically you can, if you say you're okay with, you know, just doing the propane tanks and the generator for right now, not doing anything with the driveway, then you can get the generator and the propane tanks installed. And then if you wanted to do anything with the driveway, like what you're proposing, you would have to do additional paperwork. It would have to be a new filing.
Okay, well, I don't think that, I would need more than a very small dump truck of gravel. Okay. There's very little excavation that has to be done there. It will probably take not more than an hour or two to do it. I mean, it's very minor. I mean, over the years, there's been repairs on the driveway, so I don't think it would be a big issue. I mean, the propane truck could probably back in there all right, because it's pretty solid. And the only issue with excavating would be with probably a little backhoe right where the propane tank is going and the generator. I mean, I could almost do it by hand with a shovel and a rake. It's not a lot.
No, Morris, I think what you're missing the point is what the committee is giving you some guidance on is you're not going to be able to alter the grade. What you could do is build two separate platforms, one for your propane tanks and one for your generator, and not start altering the grade or filling, because then that makes you file a notice of intent. So
Right.
when you offer those comments, you automatically kick this thing to a next level of filing, which is a notice of intent.
I thought the paperwork I filled out was a notice of intent.
No, this is a request for determination of applicability. Next
Yeah.
step down from that. So they can issue a negative determination, which would allow you to do the work, but only for the generator and the propane tanks, having both of them raised on platforms so they can be level without having to do any change to the grade. Because the changing in the grade constitutes an alteration of the dune, which is what would kick you up to the notice of intent.
Okay. Seems like this is very complicated for a very minor project. That's my only comment.
Yeah, no, Morris, I hear you, but it's the regulations that we have to abide by.
Yeah, I understand that. I deal with a lot of regulations, federal government and so forth. I understand that. Obviously, I'd like to take the easiest way out.
I think this is the easiest way out for you, Morris, and I really, you should have a conversation with Sam about the viability of a notice of intent for the work that you would be doing on the driveway anyway, because that would require DEP review and approval too. And
Right.
I have concerns that it would even be allowed. So I think the best we can do for you right now is to allow your generator and your propane to both be on 2 feet above grade on appropriate piles, and allow you to go ahead and do that work at your
Yeah,
as early as you'd like to do, without any heavy equipment being brought in to change grades and, or any fill material being brought in. So. Yeah,
I'm not sure the gas company would want to put it on a platform.
yeah, I think they do that pretty
I've never
regularly.
seen an installation of a propane tank on a platform. They usually put them
Okay.
on small concrete pads.
No, Morris, we fully understand what we're trying to do is give you an option tonight. Otherwise, you're coming back in with a notice of intent that may not have a likelihood of succeeding at the state level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to entertain a motion to have a negative determination with the understanding that both the propane tanks and the generators will be on a platform with 2 feet of separation from the dune with a suitable footing, whether it's a helicoil or those diamond piers or any non sonotube poured concrete footing.
I'd make that motion, Bob, and to add to it that no additional fill material be brought in and no changes in grade other than no changes in grade, but leave it at that.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second,
Okay. For any further discussion? Sam, why don't you read back the motion just so that the commission and Morris we're all crystal clear on how specific this is. So we don't have any confusion.
Yep, so this would be to issue a -2 determination with the conditions that the tank or tanks and the generator will both be installed on platforms raised 2 feet above grade. No sonotubes, so the option of either using diamond piers or helical piles, with no additional fill and no change of grade for the driveway or for where the tanks and generator are going to be installed.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. All in favor, say aye. Mary,
Yes,
TJ,
yes,
Brad,
Aye.
Diane,
Yes,
and Bob Connors votes yes. And that's for a negative determination, just so we are clear. All right, Morris, good luck. And if you decide to do the driveway, see Sam and she'll guide you accordingly.
All right, thank you. I'll bring the gas company out there and have them look at the driveway and see if they have any kind of problems about backing in there.
Yeah, the other option you have, Morris, is put the gas tank somewhere closer to the street that's level and just run a pipe.
Yeah, well, I'm still doing research with these generator companies and getting different stories from different ones, so. And I'm
Okay.
not in a rush to do this. I might, as long as I do it before the end of, before winter next year, I'll be happy with that, but, so there are different generator companies that are telling me different options, which they want to do or they don't want to do, so a lot of research involved with these people. I'm not really
Good.
familiar with generators.
Good luck, Morris. And all right, team, I want to move on to the next matter.
All right, thanks, Bob.
Okay, good night, Morris.
Yep, have a good night.
Okay, we have a request for determination of applicability, 1 Elm Street, Governor's Academy, for work to replace existing pipe serving irrigation system number 1. Sam, can you give us a project overview and a recommendation on this one?
Yes, so this is from the Governor's Academy. They have a existing pipe system or existing pipes that serves the irrigation system for the athletic fields. There's a pond, the whole pump house and everything already installed. The pipe that's currently serving the system has failed, so they're looking to replace that pipe basically with just better, longer lasting materials, so that it is functioning ideally for the spring season. We do have Wendy and Tom here from Governors to go over this if anyone has any questions.
Okay,
And I can bring up the photos.
All right. Mary, do you want to hear a quick presentation before we get into questions?
Please.
Okay, who wants to present this one?
I'll do it. This is Wendy Reed. I'm the environmental manager for Governor's Academy, and Tom Woodruff, who's our director of facilities, is also present. Perhaps if we look at the overall site plan first, Sam. The map that shows where the pond is, so everybody's familiar with it. So it's right down at the bottom of the athletic fields, next to Route 1. And the irrigation pump house is in the bottom left-hand corner, and that's where the pump draws from the irrigation pond. There's a floating intake, and it discharges out the left-hand side. You can see here kind of faintly the discharge pipe coming out of the top left-hand corner. Yep. So that enters the bank about a third of the way up the bank, and then daylights where the valve box label is. So there's a valve box there on the flat area outside the fence, and it's actually the valves that have failed. And so we need to dig those up and replace them. But the pipe is a galvanized pipe. So we'd like to replace that with PVC because it does show some signs of deterioration. So that's kind of the overall setup. The plan would be to do this in two parts. First, we would excavate the discharge line. And the trench would be open for less than 8 hours. And then we would replace it, same size, same location, and then backfill. And then the next day we would dig up the valve box and do the same. So if you want to show the photos, maybe, Sam, that might help to. So that's the back of the pump house. You can see the pipe coming out of the wall there. So it goes right into the bank. That's the front. Not so attractive, but it's functional. And then this is the valve box at the top. We did excavate that by hand. That's allowed in our buffer zone management plan just to diagnose the problem. And then the final photo just shows looking towards the pump house. You can kind of see the discharge line coming out of the pump house and entering the bank. So there'd be minimal vegetation disturbed. We actually had a excavation contractor on site today and looked at this with me. He said they could probably use a 12-inch bucket and set up right on the flat part outside the fence. So they'd just be reaching in as far as they could. The pipe depth varies from 6 to 18 inches. It's not very deep. So we just have to move out kind of some of the woody vines and so forth, so the bucket could have access to the ground. And we're proposing just saving the leaf litter and then covering the area when it's done instead of putting hay down or anything like that. But the entire area would be contained by erosion control, and we'd leave that in place until the growing season started and everything was revegetated.
Okay, thank you, Wendy.
Sure.
Questions, Mary, any questions for Wendy?
Wendy answered most of my questions, so that's great. And it looks pretty straightforward. I just was curious about this pond. Is this something that is a man-made pond? Was it constructed, do you know, for irrigation?
It's a natural feature, but it's been used for irrigation for anecdotally at least 50 years.
Yeah.
We don't have records of when the pumps were installed, but there's actually a bedrock well within it that maintains the level during low water periods. So it is a managed feature now.
So there must be a withdrawal permit somewhere along the way.
No, the volume is less. Is it 10,000? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Well, then that's great. The erosion controls, it looks like minimal impact, so I'm fine.
Okay, I'll circle back at the end, Mary. Brad, any questions for Wendy?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Brad. TJ, any question?
No, Mary asked my question. All set.
Okay, Diane, any questions?
No.
All right, I don't have any questions. Sam, any follow-up questions or? Do you have?
So just to avoid a previous issue that we've had with having the wrong boxes checked off, and Mary might be able to answer this one. Would we want to issue this as a -2 or a -3?
This is,
It's
well, it would,
Mostly
there would be work
buffer,
on the
right?
bank. So it looks like there probably would be bank impact, temporary.
Okay, so -2.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure that I got it checked off, right? I don't want DEP appealing any more projects for
Well,
things like that.
Yeah, or you could check off both boxes, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it would be both technically.
Okay. Sam, any raised hands from the public?
Not that I can see.
All right, team, any further questions for the applicant? All right. Is there a motion to issue a negative determination for 1 Elm Street?
So moved.
Do we have second?
Second.
Thank you, Diane. Okay, roll call vote. All in favor, say aye. Mary,
Yes,
TJ,
Aye.
Pete, excuse me, Brad,
Aye.
Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks, Wendy and Tom.
Yep. Have a good night.
Okay. They always do a great job on presentations on it.
It's almost like they know what they're talking about.
Good night.
Okay, so the next matter is 68 Green Street, request to amend the original order of conditions to include work to manage invasive species. Sam, can you provide a project overview and a recommendation on this one?
Yes, so they are looking to, there is a small pocket, so this is the development on 68 Green Street. I believe it's Farmview Lane is going to be the name of the development.
Correct.
So they are looking to, I'm just gonna bring up the lot 1 plan because it's gonna be easier to look at. They have a small pocket of isolated wetlands down here that is chock full of invasive species that they are looking to pull out and get rid of to make room for native species, which is going to be planted back in the area. I believe the plan is to keep any machinery outside of the wetlands. It's going to be right up on the edge to any machinery that they need to use to take anything out with. So they are just looking to amend their order of conditions, so this is the amendment for the order of conditions for the whole development. A couple months ago, we got an application or a couple applications for construction of the houses. This has nothing to do with those. This is just the whole development, whole subdivision plan being amended for this one area.
Okay, why don't I open it up to questions? Mary, any questions on this one?
So Sam, just so I understand it, is it the little wetland down in the, can you put your cursor on it? Okay, right,
Yeah.
that's the,
Yeah, I'm right
you're
here.
talking about that area, and it's an amendment to the roadway and infrastructure, not the separate filings for the lot, for the
Right.
individual lots.
Yep. Yep.
Got it. And this is not a jurisdictional wetland under the state rules, is that correct?
Yes, I believe so. So I believe this, and it's a little bit easier to see on the actual subdivision plans, which I did add, and I do apologize. I meant to add them last Thursday and I didn't get a chance to. The subdivision plans are in there now. It's a little bit easier to see the whole area in those, but this area over here on the left-hand side is BVW. There's a small pond somewhere kind of down in this area. So this is BVW, this is isolated wetland. Basically just like an ILSF area with the vegetation, the invasive species in it.
Okay, so it looks like it's maybe even smaller than an isolated land subject to flooding. So just for the newer members, a wetland that does not border on a water body or another wetland, a stream, lake, something, is not jurisdictional as a bordering vegetated wetland under state rules. So unless it holds a 1/4 acre foot or more of flood storage volume and qualifies as an isolated land subject to flooding, it would not be jurisdictional. The only reason this would be before us then, if it's not ILSF, is that it's in the 200-foot riverfront area. And you can see there's a line, an arcing line, that's the 200-foot from the, what's there, Little River? What's Parker River? What's it? I don't even know what river it would be.
I'm not 100% sure, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Me neither.
So it would be alteration of a potentially non-jurisdictional wetland in the riverfront area. And so I guess sounds like a good idea. I'm all for invasive species removal. I just would want to hear a little bit more about how it would be accomplished so that we could have some monitoring of it and know whether it was successful, so you can get an order of conditions. I mean, a certificate of compliance eventually.
Okay, Sam, who's here to present for the applicant?
We have Mike DeSantos, and it looks like we have Matt Wilson as well.
All right, good evening, gents. Who wants to start off and answer Mary's question?
Yep, I can tee it up for Matt, and then he's the professional, so he'll talk about.
Okay,
He's from
great.
Cole Landscaping, so he can talk about the process and what we plan to put in there and also remove. But yeah, I mean, Samantha laid it out pretty well. Right now, you can tell when you look back there, it's behind that house, that it's just there's a lot of stuff going on in there, and it'd be a lot nicer if we put some native plants in there and cleaned it up. So Matt went with the team from Cole, did a bit of reporting for us on the different invasive species that are in there, and the plan is to remove it, and Matt can kind of go over their plan on how to remove it and what to put in there fresh.
Hi, everyone. Matt from Cole Landscaping. I'm a Massachusetts certified horticulturalist. So we went out and kind of identified the native species, or the invasive species rather, that are out there. There's tons of Japanese barberry, lots of bittersweet growing up into some of the native species that exist. And basically we want to just go in onto the border. I believe it's actually in the buffer zone is where we would enter with a mini excavator on the perimeter of the area, and then just reach in and basically do a whole plant removal of all the invasive species that exist, pulling out all the roots and everything to limit the chance of recolonization. And yeah, that's basically it. And then after that, we plan to just add some native species that we highlighted on this plan. I think if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the proposed species for the planting.
Okay, Mary, I'm going to go right back to you. Do you have any questions for Matt?
No, I think this is great. I just was curious why you're just limiting it to the wetland itself. Do these invasive species extend beyond that little isolated wetland boundary?
Yeah, if you can bring the plan back up, Sam, you can see kind of in Millennium's plan, it's all
Give me
in.
one second, because I think we actually have.
Yeah, Matt marked up the plan with where the species were.
Yeah, there's some photos.
So to answer your question
file.
quickly, Mary, before the photos, yes, the plan is to go outside of that area. I
Okay.
think because it crossed over into the areas where this became something that we wanted to, obviously it's in the buffer zone too, so we wanted to bring it to the commission.
Okay, so it is extending further than that, yeah. So I guess then I would be fine with doing this provided, there would be conditions that would allow some pre-restoration photographic stations set up so that we know what the beginning and the end looks like. So you can maybe monitor it over 1 or 2 growing seasons to make sure that it's successful, so that when you have you come for a certificate of compliance, we have some basis for knowing whether it's successful or not. So hopefully you would stay involved with the project after it's planted and ensure that it's being managed and watered and whatever needs to survive for the first couple growing seasons.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
Yeah, Cole Landscaping will be maintaining the road as well in the landscaping on the road, so that will probably be pretty easy to do. Anyway,
And
they'll
what-
be involved with the
And what's your
development for a while.
ground cover gonna be?
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, we were either going to use one of the native sedge grasses or a wildflower seed mix. I think we put both of those on that list, so whatever was approved would work with us.
Okay, great, excellent.
Thank you, Mary. Brad, any questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay, TJ, any questions?
Nope. All set.
Thank you, TJ. Diane, any questions? Okay, I think Diane's having computer grumbling issues tonight. And I have no questions. Sam, any follow-up
I'm
questions or
sorry.
comments? Thank you, Diane. Sam, any follow-up questions or questions for the commission on how this should be worded on the amendment? So this is going to be a minor amendment to an existing order of conditions.
So this is actually, it's a full amendment, so it's gonna have to go, so we're, in a public hearing process right now.
Okay.
They had to, file it with DEP and everything, and it's gonna have to go through the whole appeals period and whatnot. DEP is gonna have to review it, once I send it out.
Were butters
Right.
notified?
Sorry?
Were butters notified?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
and a legal ad got posted as well. So I guess, Mary, just going back to your comment about conditions. So just the additional condition of pre-restoration photos, I would even maybe go so far as to say, we want to see before, during, and after. Get
Yeah.
some photos of while they're actually pulling things, just to see that, or monitoring during that. I would certainly be happy to go out and check it out while it's happening.
Yeah, and possibly have it be a condition that you be notified 48 hours prior to the commencement of work or something like that, so you can meet with the contractor and make sure everybody understands. Does it look like it needs to have erosion controls? Seems like it's probably pretty far away from a resource, but
Yeah, I don't really think so, and it's pretty flat for the most part around it. It's a little bit of a slope coming down this way, but if I'm recalling correctly, everything kind of on this side is really, it kind of flattens out a little bit.
okay, so maybe have them stake out the limits prior to construction, so so everybody is in agreement about the limits of the extent of work.
And you said two growing seasons to monitor afterwards?
That's typically what's required, 75% survival after 2 growing seasons.
Right. So pre-restoration photos, 2 growing seasons, 75% survival, notification 48 hours prior to commencement, and staking or flagging of the limits of work.
Mhm.
And I think I just from having seen it, and I'm sure you guys can probably tell from the photos that were in here, I think it might be kind of difficult to flag things that are being removed, but do we want to see flagging on anything that's planning on being kept to make sure that additional native species that don't need to be removed? I know there was a comment in the narrative that there were some that might have actually that their integrity might be compromised due to being choked out and shaded out by some of the invasives. But do we want to see flagging on anything that's still healthy enough to stay?
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think we want to see the extent of the area that's going to be disturbed by flagging.
Right.
Yeah, just mark it with stakes or flags so that,
Right.
one of us could go by while it was under construction and understand what
Yeah.
the limits are.
Okay. So Sam, the next step is, I apologize. I thought this was a minor amendment, not an amendment to an original order. So we need to close the public hearing on this at this point?
Yep,
Entertain
so
a
open it up to
motion?
public comment, close
Okay.
the public hearing, issue the amendment.
Okay. Are there any raised hands from the public at this time, Sam?
Not that I can see.
Okay, team, any further questions? Mary?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, TJ,
Nope, all set.
Brad,
All good, thanks, Bob.
and Diane.
Nope.
Okay, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Hang
Second.
on, okay. Do we have any, before we vote on that, do we have any? Sam, you've got all the conditions that we've identified, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All those in favor, say aye. Mary,
Yes,
TJ,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Diane,
Yes.
and Bob Connors votes yes. All right. So now we need
That's
to,
just- yeah.
that's it, close the public hearing.
Yep.
Okay, do we have a motion to amend the original order conditions as discussed?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Okay, roll call vote. All in favor, say aye. Mary,
yes,
TJ,
Yes.
Brad,
Aye.
Diane,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes.
great.
Okay, I think that's,
Good luck, guys.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
so much, everyone.
Yep.
Thank
Have a good night.
Have a great week.
okay, Tim, I think we've covered all the administrative stuff in our little gap time up at the beginning. Sam, I would make one suggestion. We start everything at 7 o'clock now.
Second,
Okay.
second that.
Yeah, and we'll go from there. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, all in favor, say aye. Mary,
Hi,
Brad,
Aye.
TJ,
Aye.
Diane,
Aye.
and Bob Connors votes aye. Hey, good night, everyone.
have a
Thank
great vacation, Bob.
I will. Bye-bye.
Bye.